Yo, what's going on, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. And today we are going to continue our Why You Complainin series with another topic that people have been complaining about. And we're going to look at why they're complaining, and are their complaints well-founded? Do they make sense? And should there be a change? Now, the next thing we are looking at today is the nerf to rerolling. Now, if you don't know what rerolling is, it's when you essentially start a brand new account, and at the beginning of you creating your account, the game likes to give you lots of free resources. So they'll give you lots of abilities to summon for free, give you lots of primo gems, and you get to summon away all your earnings at the beginning and see if you can get something good. Now, re-rolling is you create accounts to try and actually beat the system and get something good before you should. So like, if you look at the pity in here, it should take you about 90 summons to get a 5-star. But if you make a new account and it gets a 5-star in the first 20 summons, then all of a sudden everything after that is working towards your next 5-star. So you get it to essentially start ahead of the game. Now, it's important to first look at the reason why they would want to nerf rerolling. And essentially, there's two things that you could look at. You could either look at that they're being greedy and they want you to spend money to make sure you get your 5-stars, which is not really the case, but it could be. And then the second is that a lot of people just like create bots or programs that will re-roll accounts very quickly, look for the 5-stars, and then sell those accounts that have the specific 5-stars, or even maybe have multiple 5-stars if the account got really lucky. Because if you're putting a whole lot of chances into the slot machine, again, eventually you're gonna get something, right? So they sell these accounts, and that is obviously against the terms and service of the game. It's not allowed, so they want to disincentivize you doing that. Now, what has actually changed in terms of re-rolling? First of all, something really small that I don't think is going to affect anyone really is when you make a new account, you need to bind an email to it. There was a little bit amount of time, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, where you can make an account without an email, and that essentially just made it like, it just removed one simple step in the process. You didn't have to have an email, you just made your username and then you started the account right away. Now you actually have to have an email behind backing it up. I don't even think you have to confirm the email or anything. You just have to have one. So there's that. It's a change that could make it harder for people to reroll. Now, the second thing that people are complaining about is there are now less summons when you reroll. Now, you have to understand where the less summons are coming from. The less summons are the early player free summons. Essentially, at the beginning of the game, they were giving people like, I don't remember if I think it was all acquainted fates. They were giving people a whole bunch of acquainted fates to essentially play the game in its first few weeks of it being out. And I think it was about 20 that are now no longer available. And they specifically said on the thing that they were expiring at this date. So you knew if you were re-rolling that you had until a specific date before these would no longer be available. They would no longer be claimable. So you'd be missing out on 20 summons. Now, with less summons, obviously when you re-roll, it's a lot harder to get something good. I think when people were re-rolling, you were getting about 50 summons. 50 summons at like a 0.6% chance to get a 5-star. Every few re-rolled accounts, you should get at least one 5-star within those 50 summons. And then you get to essentially pick which 5-star you wanted. If you were lucky enough to get the one that you wanted, you just go with that account. Sometimes you could even get 2 5-stars. But now with there being 20 less summons, you're only doing 30. So your chances are almost cut in half of actually getting a 5-star or starting off with the character that you want. Now, the one thing to note that this is worse for new players who are just starting the game, because they are going to start with less things, right? When you summoned for your first time, you probably did like your 51st summons, got a few characters, and then you're like, all right, I'm using these characters, this is what's going to be my team. Imagine if you had half of that and you only got like 1 or 2 characters in your first few summons and mostly weapons, then you'd have a lot less choices of what you actually wanted to use. Now, I think because these were early summons, and they kind of like, there was a date given as to when it was going to go away. I don't know if people just expected that they would replace it with something else immediately, but it's kind of just what you would expect to happen. And a lot of these games like to give out free summons. So when we get towards something like a celebration or holiday or a new update, even for the next update, they could just like give you free summons for having an account during that time of that update. So in the future, you can definitely expect that while rerolling is at like a low of probably around 30 summons right now, in the future you could probably expect that you'll get back up to that 50 or maybe even higher if there's a few things overlapping like a holiday and an anniversary at the same time. Plus they just came out with a new patch. They might be giving you like 30 extra summons or something, and it might even be better to reroll at that time. You can't actually know these things, but it is something that the games like to do. They like to give their players stuff to just encourage them to have more fun in the game, and then maybe possibly spend money in the game as well, because that's their ultimate goal, and they're not losing anything by giving you free stuff. So all in all, the thing that people are complaining about is rerolling is temporarily worse, and I mean, it solves their problem of it's harder for people to sell 5-star accounts, but inadvertently also new players are getting slightly less. So I think right now is definitely a bad time to reroll. If you're still trying to reroll, you can definitely do it, but I would recommend against it. If you wait till the next update, there might be more summons again, or they might not replace them with anything. You can't really know these things. But honestly, anyone who is getting into the game early, it's kind of like a reward for them. They either had a better chance at rerolling was easier for them, or they just got those extra summons. If you look at my account, like essentially it took me about 60 summons, so a little bit past the reroll threshold for me to get Venti. And then obviously you can see I just saved up and got Klee. I pretty much made it so I'd have enough for an entire pity for Klee. So there was a 50% chance that I would get Klee, and I did end up getting her. And this account didn't get rerolled at all. I got a little bit lucky on Venti, and then I got lucky to actually get Klee and not one of the other 5-stars. But I'd have at least 2 5-stars by now on my account, where I've just been saving, haven't really spent a whole lot of money, and that's what you get without rerolling. Decent luck. So that's my piece on it. Hopefully you find this useful and you understand like why they would want to nerf rerolling, but I really don't think their intent was to nerf rerolling. I think they just wanted people to have an email linked to it, and that's completely separate from actually rerolling. And I think there will be more summons in the future if people want to reroll, but right now is obviously going to be a bad time. So either way, hopefully you found this useful, hopefully you understand, and hopefully I will see you next time.